Ujee stood on the balcony, watching the chaos unfold below as Bim-Su walked towards Sol-ji. Suddenly, her older sister, Jenna, stepped into the room, startling her. A little background on Jenna: since childhood, she had always been an understanding child. During a test given by their father to both sisters, Jenna intentionally answered incorrectly, choosing to take the punishment herself rather than see Ujee suffer. However, this only led their father to favor Ujee more. He was obsessed with turning normal people into patients, forcing both his wife and daughters to take medication. One night, Jenna overheard their parents discussing separation. Afraid that Ujee might hear, she covered her little sister's ears. Their father wanted full custody of Ujee, intending for her to run the hospital in the future, while openly stating that he would abandon Jenna. From that moment, Jenna lived in constant fear of being discarded by her father and losing her family. To gain their trust, she devoted herself to taking care of Ujee, helping with everything from washing her face to preparing her school outfits. One day, Jenna realized that Ujee no longer needed her. Desperate to be noticed again, she turned to prayer, wishing for something drastic. She asked God to give her an incurable disease so that her parents and Ujee would pity her. The moment she finished her prayer, she collapsed on the floor. Their father rushed her to the hospital, where she was diagnosed with narcolepsy, a condition that caused her to faint at random times. In the days that followed, Jenna's condition improved, and she became less drowsy. Seeing this as a second chance, their father placed high expectations on her, convinced that she would now focus on her studies and become the top student in school. He even promised to support her fully. However, these words only put immense pressure on Jenna. She became paranoid, constantly feeling as though her father was watching her from behind. Despite taking all the medications he provided, she struggled to concentrate. The fear of not becoming the top student consumed her. One night, in desperation, she broke into the teacher's office, intending to steal the exam papers. She placed her phone on a bookshelf to use as a flashlight, but before she could grab the papers, Woo Sol-ji's father caught her. Out of fear, she fainted again. When she regained consciousness, she was on the sofa. Afraid that teacher Do-hook would report her to her father, she fell to her knees and begged him. He asked if it was her first time cheating and why she did it. Jenna broke down in tears, pleading, "Please, don't give up on me." She then hugged him, seemingly trying to use her body to silence him. Do-hook attempted to push her away, but in the process, he accidentally activated her smartwatch. At the same time, her phone, still on the bookshelf, switched to recording mode, unbeknownst to either of them. Back in the present, Jenna revealed to Ujee that their father had killed teacher Do-hook. She demanded Ujee hand over the teacher's phone, but Ujee refused. As they struggled over it, the phone slipped from their hands and fell below. Ujee quickly ran down to retrieve it, while Jenna jumped out the window to get there first. Before she could find it, the security guard arrived, shining a flashlight on her. In her paranoia, she saw the guard as teacher Do-hook and immediately fled. Meanwhile, as Ujee reached the ground, the phone was still lying there. Just then, the school announced the festival had ended and instructed students to return to their classrooms. Elsewhere, Choi Kyung secretly took the knife that Bim-Su had used. When Ujee approached, asking what had happened, Choi Kyung informed her that Woo Sol-ji had been injured and taken to the hospital by his father. Concerned, Ujee rushed there immediately. At the hospital, as Juji searched for bandages, the principal interrogated Bim-Su, asking if he had used drugs. Startled, Bim-Su dropped the glass he was holding. Juji, hiding nearby, overheard part of the conversation. Meanwhile, Ujee burst into the operating room, afraid of what her father might do to Woo Sol-ji. Woo Sol-ji had already been sedated, and he was about to stitch her wound. Handing the surgical needle to Ujee, he told her to try stitching Woo Sol-ji herself. Ujee held Woo Sol-ji's hand tightly, showing her concern for her friend. Her father remarked that Woo Sol-ji, having grown up in an orphanage, was malnourished. Her skin lacked elasticity. However, since she was Ujee's friend, he promised to do his best not to leave a scar. Upon hearing this, Ujee suddenly insisted on stitching Woo Sol-ji's wound herself. Back in the classroom, the teacher confiscated anything suspected of containing illegal substances, even digestive medicine. She then ordered Choi Kyung to check students' personal lockers, but nothing suspicious was found. However, there were still 3 absent students who hadn't been checked. Later, after Wu Soljiai's surgery, her stepmother arrived in a panic. She angrily accused Yu Jie's father of operating on her daughter without guardian consent, demanding to transfer Wu Soljie to another hospital immediately. Yu Jie's father calmly replied that if she could find a hospital willing to accept a patient at this hour, she was free to leave. However, he warned that moving Wu Soljie too soon after surgery could lead to infection. She would need to sign a consent form before transferring her. Meanwhile, Yu Jie's father reviewed BM Su's medical records, noting that his condition was severe. However, Wu Soljie's records showed no abnormalities. Back home, Yu Jie received a call from Cho Ara, who revealed that BM Su had been under the influence of drugs when he stabbed Soljie. What if the truth about us selling drugs gets out? Cho Ara panicked. Yu Jie dismissed her concerns, saying, "That has nothing to do with me. I already told you not to make direct transactions, didn't I? Why did you go behind my back and sell the drugs to BM Su?" Cho Ara retorted, "I was just the seller, but you were the supplier." Yu Jie reassured her, "Don't worry, just keep quiet and do as I say." Cho Ara's biggest fear was that Wu Soljie had found out about Yu Jie's drug dealing. If Wu Soljie spoke up, they would both be doomed. This worried Yu Jie as well. Meanwhile, Choi Kyung's mother wanted the knife that BM Su had used to stab Wu Soljie. Choi Kyung had planned to hand it over to the police since the school was trying to cover everything up. However, his mother warned him against acting recklessly, as it could jeopardize his chances of getting into university. A video of BM Su attacking Wu Soljie was now circulating online. In an orphanage, an older resident smirked as he watched it. At the same time, Yu Jie's father also saw the video, seemingly entertained by it. Elsewhere, Wu Soljie finally regained consciousness in her hospital bed was also watching the same video on social media. At that moment, Yu Jie suddenly appeared and hugged her tightly from behind. Shortly after, Yu Jie took Wu Soljie outside for some fresh air to help her relax. While they were outside, Yu Jie said that sometimes she imagined her dog dying and feared she would be sad when that day finally came. Lately, she had also been imagining how Wu Soljie would die. Hearing this, Wu Soljie was truly stunned. After a moment of silence, Wu Soljie asked Yu Jie, "Have you seen my phone? It's my dad's phone, but I lost it. It has a password, so I haven't been able to unlock it yet. You know my dad, right?" Yu Jie replied, "He never taught me, but I heard he wasn't a good person. There were rumors that he had slept with students." Wu Soljie immediately refuted, saying, "That can't be true." But Yu Jie responded, "Isn't that actually a good thing? It would mean you have less reason to feel wrong compared to if your father was actually a good person." Wu Soljie was completely shocked by Yu Jie's words and angrily said, "You really are pitiful. Not everyone lives like you." Back at the hospital, the entrance was unexpectedly locked, so Wu Soljie had to find another way in. Just then, she accidentally witnessed a horrifying scene. Yu Jie's father was directing his men as they carried something that looked like a dead body. They loaded it into a truck and quickly drove away. Wu Soljie sneaked in through the back entrance of the hospital and received a phone call from her senior at the orphanage. He taunted her, saying that thanks to taking medication, she had become the top student in the school, along with the principal's daughter. Meanwhile, the secret behind the school's high university acceptance rate was spreading like wildfire on social media. He told Wu Soljie that he was starting a new business and wanted her to gather painkillers for him. At that moment, Wu Soljie noticed a suspicious black bag in the room. She was horrified to discover that it contained human corpses. Just then, Yu Jie's father appeared behind her, making her even more terrified. Wu Soljie quickly ended the call and told her senior that she would call him back later. Yu Jie's father then asked, "You want to go to medical school, don't you? Have you ever seen a dead body before?" Wu Soljie, scared, said she wanted to return to her room, but he stopped her. He explained that the bodies there were all unclaimed, and to perfect his surgical skills, he practiced on them daily. Families couldn't afford funerals, so they refused to claim the bodies. He collected them, cremated them, and disposed of them properly. "Isn't that a good thing?" he asked. Wu Soljie was still terrified and tried to escape, but the door was locked. He told her, "If you want to go to medical school, you must not fear blood and surgical tools. You'll experience it firsthand soon." Then, he finally opened the door and let her leave. Meanwhile, Yu Jie was electrocuted and knocked unconscious by her older sister, Jenna. When Yu Jie woke up, Jenna immediately questioned her about Professor Duhook's phone. Ujee asked, "Does Dad know about your relationship with him?" Jenna replied, "Yes. Is that why he killed him? Do you have any proof?" Jenna replied, "I am the witness. You have no idea how terrifying Dad really is." However, Ujee didn't have the phone with her. Instead, she gave Jenna a different phone and said, "Make sure to pick up when I call. I'll give you Professor Duhook's phone later. I won't tell Dad that we met, so you don't have to worry." The next day, the police arrived at school to continue their investigation into last night's incident. A female student testified that Soo had no friends, but he wasn't bullied, he just distanced himself from others. Another student said that Soo often took medication, but they didn't know what kind. Choi Kyung stated that Soo seemed unwell, sweating profusely and drinking excessive amounts of water. Cho Ara then pointed out that Soo wasn't in the top 20 students. If Woo Seolji hadn't transferred to this school, things would have been different. He must have been frustrated and acted out. The police asked Ujee, according to the others, "You were the closest to Woo Seolji." Instead of answering, she asked, "What exactly are you curious about regarding Woo Seolji?" Meanwhile, Woo Seolji's stepmother accompanied her to school, repeatedly warning her, "Even if someone apologizes, don't accept it right away." Soon after, the principal summoned Woo Seolji to her office, where Soo's parents were also present. Soo's family questioned the principal, "We thought Woo Seolji had no guardian. How is she allowed to be here?" The principal explained, "She's from an orphanage and has no family." Just as Soo's parents were about to leave, Woo Seolji spoke up. "I do have a guardian," she said, referring to her stepmother. A short while later, Woo Seolji's stepmother arrived. The principal was furious, realizing that someone had informed the police about the situation. She believed that the issue wasn't serious enough to involve authorities and should have been handled internally. Woo Seolji's stepmother, however, disagreed. "Someone was injured. The person responsible must face consequences." Before fixing the situation, the least they could do was offer a sincere apology, she argued. The lawyer representing Soo's family said, "If we look at the outcome, yes, Soo was wrong. But the root cause of the problem started with Woo Seolji. He then urged Soo to tell the truth. Soo confessed, "I was exhausted because my midterm results were bad. Woo Seolji gave me some pills and said they would help me feel better." Woo Seolji was completely shocked and denied it. "I never gave him any pills." But Soo insisted, "You were selling medicine. You told me that taking 6 white pills and 1 pink one would make me feel amazing." Woo Seolji was dumbfounded, unable to understand why Soo was lying. Everyone in the room seemed to be against her. The homeroom teacher said, "I checked Woo Seolji's locker, and the students have reported similar incidents." The principal suggested forming a school anti-violence committee to discuss Woo Seolji's expulsion. Woo Seolji and her stepmother strongly opposed this, arguing that the truth had yet to be uncovered. Then, the police asked Woo Seolji another question. "Did you take a batch of medicine from the hospital? What did you do with it? Did you sell it to students for money?" Woo Seolji denied everything. But the police revealed that they had evidence. On the day her medical exam results were released, she had been near the hospital's medicine storage room. Suddenly, Woo Seolji remembered something. Ujee had told her to wander around the hospital before meeting her on the rooftop. Now, she finally realized what was going on. She immediately revealed Ujee's name, stating that Ujee was the one selling drugs to students for money, not her. Right after that, the homeroom teacher called Ujee to meet with the police. Woo Seolji was finally allowed to return to class. A little while later, Cho Ara told Ujee, "The person you trusted the most, Woo Seolji, has already given your name to the authorities. This whole thing was wrong from the beginning. Even if the truth comes out, you still have a talented father backing you up. I was a fool to trust you." Outside, Ujee overheard a conversation between her father and the principal. Her father said, "This matter involves that girl, Gi, but everything will be resolved soon, so don't worry." Back in class, Ujee wanted to talk privately with Woo Seolji, but Woo Seolji refused, saying, "I have nothing to say. I don't feel guilty at all. If I didn't do it, why should I take the blame? Do you think someone like me can't stand up for myself when being trampled on?" Ujee suddenly told Woo Seolji, "You did well." Just then, Woo Seolji's senior appeared. Woo Seolji quickly pulled him away. At home, the senior asked Woo Seolji about her painkillers. Wu Soljai took them out of her bag and handed them to him, explaining that they were prescribed for her injury, but she hadn't taken any in days. Then, he asked where she had been buying medicine lately. Wu Soljai replied, "I bought it online." Since he wanted to dominate the drug market, he planned to track down and punish the seller. He immediately ordered a package of painkillers from the same place Wu Soljai had bought hers and asked for the login details of her chat with the seller. Meanwhile, Yu Jie asked her father, "Are you really going to turn Wu Soljai into a criminal? No one will believe him even if he accuses me of being the mastermind behind the drug sales 100 times. Her father then warned her to stop selling drugs to the younger kids. But Yu Jie retorted, "My little games could crush Wu Soljai's future." She also told her father that she knew he sent someone to steal teacher Du Hook's phone because it contained something valuable left behind after he was killed. Her father replied coldly, "If you want that girl to be labeled forever as the daughter of a rapist, then go ahead, because he can now see how ruthless Yu Jie was." Yu Jie wanted to call her sister to confirm if the rape incident was true, but her father stopped her. At that moment, Yu Jie realized that even he wasn't sure whether it had really happened. The next day in class, Wu Soljai received a message from her senior with the time and place for her to pick up the medicine. She still didn't know whether Cho Ara or Yu Jie was behind this deal. After school, Wu Soljai hurried out of the classroom, making Yu Jie suspicious. Yu Jie checked the storage locker in the clubroom but found no medicine. She then confronted Cho Ara, who admitted that she had already sold everything. Yu Jie panicked, fearing that Soljai might have set them up with the police. "If he cooperates with them for a sting operation, we're doomed," she exclaimed. But Cho Ara reassured her, "Don't worry, I already tipped off the police." She had used the school's phone to leak the transaction location, a locker at Gangnam Station. Hearing this, Yu Jie was horrified. She snatched Cho Ara's phone and ran out. She called Soljai, trying to warn him, but he didn't answer. She then called her sister, Jenna, saying, "I'll return teacher Du Hook's phone to you. Meet me at exit B of Gangnam Station." Meanwhile, Jenna texted Wu Soljai's stepmother, "I'll be late. I'm bringing your husband's phone with me." At the same time, Wu Soljai's senior received an update that the transaction location had changed to exit A, so he immediately informed Wu Soljai. When Jenna arrived at the station, Yu Jie called her and said, "I left the phone in locker number 4. But when Jenna opened it, she only found a pile of drugs. Realizing she had been tricked, she ran away. Nearby, Wu Soljai's senior witnessed the whole thing. On the other side of the station, Wu Soljai arrived at exit A, where she ran into Yu Jie. Without saying a word, Yu Jie grabbed Wu Soljai and pulled her away. As Jenna rushed outside, 2 strange men kidnapped her, forcing her into an ambulance and driving off. Behind them, her father silently watched. And the senior from the orphanage saw everything.